Okay, in this problem here, x is not to the second power. There's only one solution to it. So how many x's are in there? 2. We got to get it to 1. So it's on both sides. So we need to do the property of equality with 4x. That's 0. And then I add 4x to 3x. So we have 1 equals 7x plus 15. And then I just minus 15. And divide by 7 then. That's going to be negative 14 divided by 7 is negative 2. Okay, now this next one, x to the second plus 5x minus 14 equals 0. You see your x is to the second power, so that makes us have two answers. So we need to have the equation set so we can factor, because you have x here to the second. I'm going to put a 1 there. But then you have this x that isn't to the second. So you have to have the equation equal to 0 first. So the first step after it's set equal to 0 is see if you have a GCF. Well, you don't have the x. This time you got 3 terms. You got x to the second on 1, x on 5, but you don't have x on 14's missing an x, so you can't do an x out here. Then 1, 5, and 14, 1's the smallest number. Well, the only factor of 1's 1. So when the GCF's 1, that means it's a waste of time for me to even do it. Okay, so that didn't get me very far. So then what I do with 3 terms is I go A, B, C, and then I'm going to create this box here. And I'm going to split it in half. This half's for the table to find the 2 factors that would make 5, the middle, and here's for the parentheses. So I connect the A to the C, okay? 1 times negative 14 is negative 14. Now we got a negative, so that means I'm going to minus the 2 factors, and I'm trying to get the factors to equal 5. So 1 and 14, no. 2 and 7, yep, 7 minus 2 is 5. Now, we got to sign the numbers correctly. Now, the 5 up there is positive, so it's plus 5. That means automatically you have to have a plus 7 on your high. You have to have a plus on the higher factor. Now, for the smaller factor, you check up here. You don't worry about that anymore. And you see 14's negative. So anytime we have a negative up there, the signs have got to be the opposite, because they have to multiply to the negative, and that only happens if the signs are opposite. Okay? Now, the A is 1x to the second, so I don't need to worry about the 1. I know x to the second is just x times x, okay, because I'm making the 2 binomials now that would rainbow out to this trinomial. So xx, and then minus 2 plus 7. So you got your f1, got your f2. And you set those each equal to 0 now, because that's why you have to have it equal to 0. Because all you're doing is rewriting the expression on this side into its factored form. Okay, plus 2, x equals 2, minus 7, x is negative 7, and those are your 2 answers. Okay, next problem, there's 2 answers. So again, you're set with the 0. So first thing, look for a greatest common factor. Again, you got these 3 terms now instead of just 2. Now, if I just had these 2, I'd be doing an x here, but I got this 24 thrown in without the x. So I don't do x. 1, 11, 24 is just a 1. Whenever 1's in the group of numbers, 1's a GCF. So that's not worth doing then. Okay, so then I go A, B, C, and I create this box. Okay, so A multiplied by C, that'd be positive this time. So it's a positive. So this time we're not going to minus. We're going to try to add to get the middle number, which is 11. So 24 divided by 1 is 24. That does not add to 11. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 24 divided by 3 is 8, and that is 11. So the 11's negative, okay? So negative goes on the 8 for sure, okay? Because these are the factors. And up there we have a positive. Well, the only way to get a positive product is if the signs are the same. So minus 3. Okay, so we have a. I can kind of ignore that, okay? And we know x to the second is x times x, and then we know that positive 24 is now going to be minus 3 times minus 8. So F1, F2. So x minus 3 could equal 0, or x minus 8 could equal 0. So plus 3, I get 3 for my first answer, plus 8, and I get 8 for my second. 3 and 8 are the two answers. Okay, now on the next page, I'll cross that one out right there. There's two answers, but you got a little problem. You got this x to the second, and then this x that isn't to the second. Well, then you're not set, okay? You can't do the F1, F2 equals 0 without the 0. So what you do is you need to minus the 55, and you can't take 55 from 1x to the second, and you can't take it from a 6x, so we put it afterwards. And now my new equation is 1x to the second plus 6x minus 55. Okay, now you're set. Okay. Now, first thing to go with is to look for a greatest common factor. But again, that's missing an x, these three terms. And this one's missing an x, so I can't do the x. 1, 6, 55 is just a GCF of 1, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, now, A, B, C. So 1 times negative 55 is negative 55. So we got a negative, so this is a minus. Just think, negative is like a minus sign. And you're trying to get to 6. 1 and 55, nope. 55 divided by 2 is a decimal. 55 divided by 3 is a decimal. 55 divided by 4 is a decimal. 55 divided by 5 is 11. So 11 minus 5 gives me 6. So it's got to be those two. Now the 6 up there is plus, so that means plus goes on your larger factor. We have a negative up there, that means the signs are opposite. So minus 5 plus 11. Now again, a up there is just 1, so I really don't need to worry about it, because x to the second we can just write then as x times x. Then minus 5 plus 11. So x minus 5 equals 0. X plus 11 equals 0. So I add 5, I get 5. I minus 11, I get negative 11. Okay, next problem. Again, you see we have x to the second, so that's two answers. And you have an x that's not to the second. So you can't put the x's together like you could on that very first problem in this packet. You need a factor, but in order to use factoring to solve equations, remember you want to do the F1, F2 equals 0, but I can't do that without a 0. So I need to get rid of this 18 by subtracting it. Now I can't subtract it from 1x to the second, and I can't subtract it from 3x, okay? So now I put it behind it, and I have 1x to the second plus 3x minus 18 equals 0. And now we're set. Okay, so the greatest common factor. You got three things now, but that doesn't have x, so we can't put an x there. 1, 3, and 18 is just 1 as the GCF for all three. Whenever 1's in the group, 1's got to be the GCF. Then I make my box with the table, and I go A, B, C. First half's for the table, second half's to figure out your parentheses. So 1 times negative 18 is negative 18, so I got a negative. So I'm going to minus to try to get 3, which is a plus. 118, nope. 2 and 9, nope. 3 and 6, yep. 6 minus 3 is 3. So plus 3 means you have a plus on your higher, and a negative up there means the signs have to be the opposite, okay? Now, up there, your A is just a 1, so you can just go two parentheses because you know x to the second can only be x times x. And then this times this has to be negative 18, but I know the two factors I'm going to use, minus 3 and plus 6. So that's factor 1, that's factor 2. Plus 3, I get 3. minus 6, I get negative 6. I'm not doing that one. Okay, now I'm going to do 2 more examples, okay? And then you can go work on the numbered problems. There's 2 answers. Again, you're not set, okay? Because you got x second, you get this x not to the second, so we have to factor the expression. First, you have to have the 0, though, so you subtract 6x. Now, you're not going to subtract it from the 1, and you're not going to subtract it from the 8, because it gets x second, and that doesn't have an x at all. So I put it after everything. But when I'm writing this, I have to write this in the proper order. I need the 1x to the second first, the minus 6x second, and then the number without the x always is written last of the 3. It's got to be in that order or it's screwed up. Okay, so first, greatest common factor. That doesn't have x, and then 1, 6, and 8 is just going to be 1. So ABC that. So again, the GCFs on this assignment you're not going to get anywhere, okay? You're going to have to use your unfoil method. So 1 times 8 is 8, positive this time. So we're going to have adding. I'm trying to add to 6, and 6 is negative. No, I'll worry about that later. 1 and 8, 1 plus 8 is not 6. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. So I got it. Now the 6 up there is a negative. So that means the larger factor is negative. And a positive product up here means the signs are the same. Okay? Okay, so A is 1, so I know that that's just x times x. Minus 2 minus 4. F1, F2. So x minus 2 could equal 0, or x minus 4 could equal 0. So I add 2, I get 2. I add 4, and I get 4. So 2 and 4. Okay, last example I'm going to do. There's 2 answers. So you got x to the second here, but you also got x's that aren't to the second. So you need to set it, and it's not set, okay? Because here's the equals. I need 0 on this side. So I add the 8x, and I can't add 8x to 1x to the second, but I can add 8x to negative 15x. So I put that beneath it. Now I've also got to deal with the minus 10, so I add 10. And I can't add 10 to 1x to the second. I can't add 10 to negative 15x and 8x, so I add 10 behind it. So first we look at the x to the second, so I have 1. And then the x's, I need to do my math. I need to take negative 15 and add 7. It's negative 7. So minus 7x, and then plus 10 equals 0. And now we're set. Okay, so negative in front, nope. X on everything, nope. 1, 7, and 10, that's going to be a 1. So I go to my table. 1 times 10 is positive 10 this time. So I got a positive. That's a good indicator. I need to add the factors to try to make 7. 1 and 10, nope. 2 and 5, yep. Okay. So negative, okay. Okay, and you get a positive product, they have to be the same, okay? Now, A is a 1, so it's going to be just x times x, and then minus 2, minus 5, F1, F2. So x minus 2 equals 0, x minus 5 equals 0, plus 2, 2 is the first answer, and 5 is the second.